The year was 2091. Earth was noisy, messy, and full of life, just the way humans liked it. Then, one morning, the sky changed. It started as a whisper across the internet. There's something up there. Thousands of eyes turned to the sky, and millions of cameras began to stream the impossible. A massive fleet of alien ships, dark and shining, hung above the planet like a storm of steel. Every news station went live. Governments panicked, and then the message came. A deep, echoing voice filled every screen, every phone, every speaker. Humans of Sol, you are now subjects of the Galactic Empire. Your world is annexed. Resistance will mean destruction. The world froze. For 3 seconds, total silence. Then, someone laughed. A small, confused laugh that turned into millions more. The Galactic Empire didn't understand. They had conquered 1,000 worlds, crushed civilizations that cried and begged for mercy, but never one that laughed. On social media, the memes exploded. Guess we're the DLC nobody asked for. Do they take coupons for surrender? And the classic, a photo of an alien ship labeled free Wi-Fi? Military leaders tried to control the chaos, but it was too late. The internet had declared the invasion a global comedy event. Meanwhile, far from the noise, in a quiet underground lab, Dr. Lena Reyes stared at a screen showing the alien signal. Her coffee steamed beside her. Her eyes were calm. They're using psionic frequencies, she whispered. Emotion control tech. That's why every other species fell. She paused, smiling faintly. But they've never met us. Outside, the world laughed. Above, the Empire watched, confused and angry. They thought humanity was mocking them. They were right, but they didn't know. It was only the beginning. 3 days after the first message, the Galactic Empire sent another. This time the voice was colder, angrier, and louder. You were warned. In 7 solar days, Earth will be erased. Prepare your surrender or your extinction. The image of the alien leader filled the sky, a tall, armored being with burning silver eyes. His name was High Lord Varnath, ruler of 700 worlds. He expected screams. He expected fear. Instead, he got music. The people of Earth had started throwing countdown parties. Cities glowed with lights, laughter, and songs. In Tokyo, holographic DJs played remixes of the alien threat. In New York, banners read, 7 days till nothing. And in London, people painted alien faces on pub walls with glowing smiles. To Varnath, it looked like madness. To humans, it was just another way to cope. Humor was how they fought back, quietly, cleverly, together. Across the planet, governments worked behind the curtain. Scientists, engineers, and hackers met in hidden labs and encrypted networks. Among them was Dr. Lena Reyes, the calm voice in chaos. Her project, Echo, was growing fast. She and her team studied the alien psionic signals, the strange energy woven into their speech and commands. The Empire's power didn't come from technology alone. It came from emotion control, from bending the minds of their enemies with fear. But Earth wasn't bending. Every time the Empire broadcast its commands, human laughter jammed their frequency. The emotion they tried to control was fighting back. Dr. Reyes smiled at the data on her screen. We don't need to fear them, she said. We just need to keep laughing. Outside, the alien fleet watched a species it could not understand. The High Lord sent another report to his emperor. They refused to submit. Their behavior is illogical. They mock destruction. The emperor replied with one word, then destroy them. And so the countdown began. 7 days? 7 days until war. 7 days until humanity's greatest joke or their final laugh. Day 3 of the countdown. The Galactic Empire prepared its first strike. Giant warships drifted above Earth, their weapons glowing like suns. From orbit, they released energy probes, invisible machines meant to scan and weaken human minds. It had worked on every other species before, but when the probes reached Earth, something went wrong. Instead of fear or silence, they met a storm of human noise, laughter, music, and chaos. Billions of humans were watching, filming, and joking at once. The world's communication networks were bursting with emotion. And then, the alien systems began to glitch. Varnath's ships lost signal contact. Screens filled with static, then with fragments of human sound, snippets of talk shows, jokes, and laughter loops. The alien officers panicked. "Sir, our controls are unstable. Human frequencies are interfering." The High Lord's eyes burned. "They are primitive! Crush them!" But their weapons refused to fire. Deep underground, Dr. Lena Reyes stared at her monitors, eyes wide. Her theory was right. The Empire's psionic energy fields could not process unpredictable emotional patterns. Laughter, especially collective laughter, scrambled their systems completely. "We just turned comedy into a shield," she said quietly. Her assistant blinked. "You mean we can fight them with jokes?" She nodded. Jokes, joy, chaos, anything that makes us human. That night, leaders from across the world held a secret digital meeting. Dr. Reyes presented her findings. The solution wasn't a missile or a laser. It was a signal, a shared broadcast that could block alien control tech across the planet. They called it the Laughing Defense. Comedians, musicians, gamers, and ordinary people joined the plan. They would create a wave of unpredictable emotional energy, a global network powered by laughter itself. And while the Galactic Empire thought humanity was losing its mind, Earth was actually preparing the most unthinkable defense in history. A defense born not from fear, but from joy. Varnath watched the planet's surface glow with lights and motion. He didn't understand what the humans were doing, but he could feel something strange, something he hadn't felt in centuries. A sound. Soft, distant, and unsettling. He realized, too late. It was laughter. The countdown reached day 5. The Galactic Empire's patience was gone. From orbit, their warships hovered like black mountains, glowing with red energy. They had come to make an example of Earth, a lesson for the rest of the galaxy. Inside the flagship Empyrean, High Lord Varnath stood before a massive screen showing Earth below. "Begin cleansing," he commanded. "Let them understand what defiance costs." The ship's main cannon powered up. A sphere of white-hot energy formed, humming like thunder. The sound shook the clouds. On the ground, cities held their breath. Every news channel, every live stream, every person on Earth stared at the sky. The world waited for death. Then, a flash. The beam struck the Pacific Ocean, boiling the water into steam. A wall of heat and light roared across the waves. Hundreds of ships vanished in seconds. The message was clear: submit or perish. Billions wept. Billions screamed. But amid the fear, something else began to rise. Fury. And behind that fury was laughter. Deep beneath the Andes Mountains, inside the Echo facility, Dr. Lena Reyes watched the satellite feeds. Her voice trembled with grief, but her eyes stayed sharp. "They want fear," she said. "Let's give them something they can't control instead." She turned to her team. "Start Operation Punchline!" The room came alive. Technicians connected uplinks, quantum routers, and global communication towers. Across every continent, satellites began to turn, pointing not toward Earth, but outward, toward the fleet. At first, the Empire didn't notice. Their scanners showed nothing dangerous, just random human transmissions. Music, chatter, laughter, noise. Then the noise became something else. Billions of frequencies merged, forming waves of unpredictable emotion, color, and rhythm. It wasn't just sound anymore. It was energy. Earth had turned its global networks into one giant amplifier of emotion. Every meme, every song, every laugh became part of a single broadcast. And then, the laughing defense hit the Empire. Aboard the Empyrean, lights flickered. The ship's targeting systems went offline. Officers screamed as control panels flashed with static and faces. Human faces, laughing uncontrollably, appeared across their screens. "Our psionic stabilizers are failing. Emotional interference levels are off the scale." High Lord Varnath slammed his fist on the console. "Find the source!" But there was no single source. It was everywhere, every city, every home, every human heart. On the surface, humanity roared with unity. People gathered in crowds, laughing through tears, shouting into the sky. They knew it wasn't just about jokes anymore. It was survival through spirit. In Lagos, comedians streamed live from rooftops, their laughter echoing through the night. In Mumbai, musicians turned street festivals into emotional power stations. In Rio, fireworks painted the sky with words like, "We're still here." Every burst of joy added more power to the global signal. Every burst of joy added more power to the global signal. In orbit, the Empire's fleet began to shake. Their psionic link, the mental network that connected all soldiers, started to fracture. Alien minds filled with human noise, laughter, music, and fragments of strange Earth phrases. Some soldiers clutched their heads, confused and terrified. They had never heard laughter before. They didn't even know what it was. One whispered to another, "Why does this sound make me feel?" To another, "Why does this sound make me feel?" One whispered to another, "Why does this sound make me feel?" Emotion, something the Empire had erased centuries ago, was returning like a forgotten virus. High Lord Varnath felt it too. A strange pressure in his chest, like a heartbeat he hadn't known he still had. He shouted over the chaos, "Cut the psionic link! Cut it now!" But it was too late. The fleet's AI systems were overwhelmed. Weapons misfired. Ships collided. Entire squadrons drifted out of formation. On Earth, Dr. Reyes watched the data spike. Her assistant gasped, "It's working! Their entire network is collapsing!" Reyes nodded slowly. "They've never faced chaos before," she said. "And chaos is what we do best." Still, humanity paid a price. The ocean burned. Coastlines were lost. Millions were displaced, their homes gone beneath clouds of steam and ash. Yet even in the ruins, people refused to give up their laughter. Volunteers carried speakers through flooded streets, blasting comedy shows into the air. Children drew smiling faces on walls that still smoked. Humanity wasn't mocking the dead. They were honoring them. In their own impossible way. Because to stop laughing now would mean letting fear win. Up in orbit, Varnath stared at Earth through the cracked window of his command deck. He could hear it, faint but real, that sound again. It was coming from his own soldiers now. Some of them were laughing. He turned to his lieutenant, voice trembling with rage and confusion. "What have they done to us?" The alien looked at him with wide, wet eyes. "They made us remember, my lord, what it feels like to be alive." Varnath drew his blade, furious, but his hands shook. For the first time, his empire's greatest weapon, control, was gone, and far below, Dr. Reyes whispered the words that echoed through every human transmission that night. "We are not your slaves. We are not your experiment. We are humanity, and we laugh in the face of fear." The world roared with laughter once more. The alien fleet burned with confusion and emotion. And the stars, for the first time in centuries, echoed with life again. The Empire had never lost a battle. Until Earth, High Lord Varnath could not believe what was happening. His fleet, a force strong enough to crush 100 worlds, was in chaos. His soldiers were laughing, his ships drifting out of control, and his mind was filled with strange human emotions, disgust, confusion, and something worse, curiosity. "I will end this myself," he said. "I will go to their world. I will make them kneel before me." The imperial court begged him not to. The human planet was unpredictable, infected with emotional energy, but pride ruled him, not reason. So, on the morning of day 6, Varnath's personal ship cut through the clouds over North America and landed in the center of New York City. The sky tore open with light. Buildings trembled. Cars stopped. People screamed at first. Then they saw him, a massive alien, 10 feet tall, wrapped in black armor that shimmered like liquid glass. His face was pale silver, his eyes glowing like dying suns. Around him, the air crackled with psionic power. He raised his hand, and every nearby electronic screen lit up with his face. "Humans," his voice thundered. "Your world is doomed. Your laughter cannot save you. Kneel before the Empire." For a moment there was silence. Then a voice shouted from the crowd, "Hey! You sound like my boss on Monday morning!" Laughter exploded through the streets. Varnath froze. He had faced nuclear fire, rebellion, and void storms, but never mockery. "Silence!" he roared, shaking the ground. The people laughed harder. Phones came out. Cameras flashed. Within seconds, the internet was filled with clips titled, "Alien Karen Meltdown, Live." A reporter from a local news station pushed through the crowd and held up a microphone. "Hi, Lord, is it true you invaded us because we didn't answer your calls?" More laughter. Even some police officers couldn't hide their smiles. Varnath's psionic power flared, knocking cars aside and shattering glass. But the more he raged, the more they laughed. Every burst of emotion fed the same energy field that had already weakened his fleet. From a command bunker below the city, Dr. Lena Reyes watched the feed with a quiet grin. "He came down here himself," she said. "Perfect." Her team immediately activated Phase 2 of the Laughing Defense. Thousands of hidden broadcast units across the city came online, projecting sound, light, and emotion into the air. Laughter filled the sky, not chaotic this time, but rhythmic, pulsing like a heartbeat. Varnath staggered, gripping his head. The sound was no longer just noise. It was inside him. He saw flashes in his mind, memories that weren't his. A child blowing out birthday candles, a crowd cheering at a concert, a mother laughing through tears after saving her child. He screamed, trying to block it out. "Stop! What is this madness?" Dr. Reyes's voice came through a nearby broadcast screen. "It's not madness," she said calmly. "It's humanity." He turned toward the sound, eyes wide. You are their leader?" "No," she replied. "I'm just one of them." Varnath's armor flickered as his psionic shield weakened. He could feel emotion breaking through, real, painful, beautiful emotion. For centuries, his kind had purged feelings from their DNA, believing emotion made them weak. Now it was destroying his control. He fell to one knee, gasping. "It hurts." Reyes watched, sadness and pity in her eyes. "That's what life feels like." "You've forgotten it." The alien soldiers around the city began to tremble. Some dropped their weapons. One started laughing softly, the sound strange and broken, like static turning human. Another removed his helmet and stared at the sky in silence. Varnath looked up at the endless gray clouds. He felt something wet run down his face. Not blood, not sweat. Tears. He whispered almost to himself, "What have we done?" The laughter around him softened. Humans who had been mocking now watched in quiet wonder. For a moment, the invasion stopped. The Conqueror was just another being trying to understand. Then, above them, the sky flashed again. The Empyrean, half crippled, began to fall from orbit. Flames streaked across the clouds. Dr. Reyes looked at the radar. "He's still linked to their psionic core," she said. "If he dies, the rest of the fleet will go down with him." Her assistant asked, "Then we should save him." Reyes hesitated. The man who had promised Earth's destruction was now kneeling, weeping, surrounded by laughter. "We don't kill the broken," she said. "We teach them to stand." She opened a direct transmission. "Varnath, listen to me. Disconnect from your core. Let go. Or you'll take your people with you." He looked up, trembling. "They will call me weak." "No," she said softly. "They'll call you the first to remember." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Varnath closed his eyes and released his psionic link. Above, the falling ship stabilized, drifting harmlessly into the ocean. The remaining alien fleets began to retreat, their systems freed from the command network. The humans around him began to cheer. Some laughed again, not to mock, but to celebrate. Varnath stared at them in silence. He had come to crush their spirit, but instead they had given him his back. He turned toward Dr. Reyes' broadcast image and bowed his head. "You fight with madness," he said. "But your madness has meaning," Reyes smiled. "It's called hope." And for the first time in his long life, High Lord Varnath smiled too. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Galactic Empire was silent. Their fleets, once the sound of thunder and fear, drifted in confusion above a small blue world that refused to die. Earth still burned in places. The oceans boiled where the alien blasts had struck. But cities that should have fallen were alive with sound, not of war, but of laughter, music, and hope. Down below, Dr. Lena Reyes stood on the roof of the Echo Command Center, staring at the bright sky. It wasn't empty anymore. It shimmered with broken pieces of the Empire's ships, floating like silver stars. "It worked," said her assistant, almost whispering. "They're leaving." Reyes shook her head slowly. "No," she said. "They're listening." High above Earth, aboard the damaged flagship Empyrean, High Lord Varnath watched his own soldiers break formation. He had disconnected from the psionic core, the Empire's heart of control, and for the first time, his people could feel. It terrified them, but it also freed them. Messages began spreading across the Empire's communication channels, strange messages, impossible ones. The humans did not fight with fear. They used emotion as a weapon. They laughed at destruction and survived. Across the galaxy, these messages reached other worlds, planets the Empire had ruled for centuries. Slaves, miners, and broken soldiers listened to the strange story of Earth, a world that had mocked the gods of war and won. And then, something miraculous began. On the mining world of Durrell, workers stopped obeying their overseers. They painted human smiles on their helmets and began to sing. When the psionic commanders tried to punish them, their mental commands failed. The vibrations of the songs disrupted their control. On Taraxis Prime, alien scholars secretly watched recordings from Earth's internet. They studied human comedians, musicians, and storytellers. Their leader whispered, "They used laughter to break the unbreakable." And on Cora 7, a young soldier looked at his trembling hands and remembered the strange joy he had felt when the human laughter reached his mind. He dropped his rifle and refused to fire again. Humanity didn't know it yet, but their emotional broadcast, their global laugh, was still traveling through the void. It wasn't just a sound. It was a wave, a pattern of quantum frequencies carried by the very fabric of space. The laughing signal was spreading faster than light. Dr. Reyes watched the readings. "It's amplifying," she said. "Every planet it touches, the psionic networks collapse. Their control systems are breaking apart." Her team was stunned. "So we're freeing them?" Reyes smiled. "Not us. They are freeing themselves. We just reminded them how." Meanwhile, deep within the Imperial Palace on Varnath's homeworld, Olindra, the Emperor watched the chaos unfold from his throne. He was ancient, half machine, his body kept alive by the psionic energy that bound the Empire together. And now that energy was fading. Reports came in. Rebellions on 50 worlds, soldiers refusing orders, emotions spreading like a sickness. He slammed his clawed hand onto his throne's armrest. "Find the human who caused this," he hissed. "Erase their world. Erase their memory." But the command never reached his fleets. The psionic network was gone. His voice was no longer godlike, just an old creature shouting into silence. Back on Earth, the human response to all this was typical. Social media was on fire. Memes everywhere. A trending topic read, "Humanity broke the galaxy el-all." Talk shows debated whether aliens would start watching sitcoms next. But behind the jokes, humanity began to realize the truth. They hadn't just saved themselves. They had changed everything. Dr. Reyes was invited to speak before the United Earth Council. She stood at the podium, her voice calm, her face tired but proud. "They came here to destroy us," she said. "Instead, they discovered the one force they could never conquer: emotion." She paused, glancing at the images of alien worlds now rising in rebellion. Every laugh we shared, every song, every moment of courage, it wasn't just noise. It was a message. And now the whole galaxy is hearing it. The crowd fell silent. Then someone started clapping. Soon the entire chamber stood, applauding not just her, but the unstoppable, ridiculous, beautiful nature of humanity itself. High Lord Varnath appeared on screen again, not as a conqueror, but as a messenger. His armor was gone, replaced with simple robes. His voice was soft, almost human now. "To the people of Earth," he said, We cannot undo what we have done, but you have given us something we thought was extinct. Feeling. We will not attack again. Instead, we will listen and learn. Dr. Reyes smiled faintly as she watched. The empire that once ruled the stars now bowed its head to a species that laughed in its face. Across the galaxy, old enemies began to talk. Worlds that had never known peace shared stories of the humans, how they mocked death, how they turned fear into fuel, and in time something new began to form, a loose alliance of free worlds. Inspired by Earth, they didn't call it an empire. They called it the Chorus, a union of voices, all different, all alive. At night, Reyes looked up at the sky, filled with debris, satellites, and distant lights. Her assistant joined her. "Do you think they'll ever come back?" She smiled. "Maybe, but next time they won't come to rule. They'll come to laugh with us." The stars shimmered, and somewhere far away, another world began to giggle for the first time in centuries. The galaxy had changed, not through weapons, not through power, but through the sound of a single planet that refused to stop laughing. The war that never truly became a war was finally over. The skies above Earth were quiet. No ships, no weapons, no commands. Only drifting lights, broken pieces of the Empire's once mighty fleet, now glowing gently like stars. The people of Earth stepped out of their shelters and ruins, their faces covered in ash, tears, and faint smiles. They had survived the impossible, not because of stronger weapons or faster ships, but because they had refused to be afraid. In every city, people began to rebuild, and everywhere there was laughter. Not mocking laughter this time, but soft and real, the kind that comes after a storm when the sun finally returns. Dr. Lena Reyes walked through the remains of what used to be the Echo Command Center. The machines were silent now. Her work was finished. The laughing defense was no longer a secret weapon. It had become a symbol. Her assistant approached, carrying a data tablet. "The transmission is still spreading," he said. "We're receiving signals from 5 new planets. They're calling us the Children of Chaos." Reyes smiled at the name. "Children of Chaos. I suppose they're right." She looked up at the faint shimmer of satellites still orbiting overhead. They were no longer defense tools. Now they carried music, stories, and voices into the stars. The same frequencies that once jammed enemy ships were now connecting worlds that had been silent for centuries. In the following weeks, ships from distant planets began to arrive. Not warships, transports carrying refugees and envoys. They came cautiously at first, expecting traps or tricks. Instead, they found open arms. Earth's people welcomed them. They shared food, laughter, and strange new languages. Alien visitors sat in coffee shops, trying human drinks and learning to smile. Children ran up to them without fear, asking endless questions. For the first time in galactic history, aliens didn't see humanity as primitive or dangerous. They saw them as something new. High Lord Varnath was among the first to return. He no longer wore armor. He came alone, without guards, walking through the same city he had once tried to conquer. The people didn't attack him. Some stared. Others waved. A few even asked for pictures. Dr. Reyes met him in a park surrounded by rebuilding crews and laughter. He bowed his head slightly. "Your world is strange," he said. "You fight with humor, you heal with sound." "I do not understand it." Reyes handed him a small object, an old portable speaker. She pressed play. A recording of human laughter filled the air. Children laughing. Old people laughing. The sound of life itself. "You don't have to understand it," she said. "You just have to feel it." Varnath listened quietly, and for the second time in his long life, he smiled. Months passed. The Galactic Empire was gone, replaced by something new. A council of free worlds united not by fear, but by shared emotion. They called it the Chorus of Worlds. Each planet had a voice. Each species had a choice, and in the center of it all was Earth, the planet that had laughed in the face of annihilation. Reyes became a reluctant symbol of the new age. She never saw herself as a hero, but people called her the Mother of Echo. To her, it was simple. "We didn't win," she told an interviewer. "We reminded them what winning should mean, to live without fear." Years later, Earth celebrated Laughter Day every year on the same date the invasion began. Cities lit up with holograms of jokes, stories, and bright lights. Even alien visitors joined in. Across the galaxy, ships broadcast the sound of laughter, a reminder that no empire could ever silence it again. In one corner of the festival, a little alien child sat beside an old human man watching cartoons on a glowing screen. The child tilted its head, puzzled, then began to giggle. The sound made nearby humans smile. That small, shared moment was worth more than 1,000 victories. High above, the Empyrean, once a warship, now drifted peacefully in orbit. It had been repurposed into a floating archive, a place where all species could share their art, music, and emotions. They called it the Hall of Echoes. Inside, recordings from Earth played continuously. Comedies, speeches, songs, and at the heart of it, a simple line spoken by Dr. Reyes. Laughter is not weakness. It's proof we're still human, and proof you can be too. The line was translated into hundreds of languages. It became a phrase known across the stars. Now, many years after the invasion, Dr. Reyes sat in her small home overlooking the sea. The horizon glowed faintly with lights from new ships coming and going, human and alien together. Her assistant, now older himself, joined her with a cup of tea. "You've seen everything change," he said softly. "Do you ever wonder what comes next?" Reyes smiled, her eyes on the stars. "No one knows what comes next. That's what makes it beautiful." She paused, listening. Far away, from a city celebrating below, came the faint sound of laughter carried on the wind. "Do you hear that?" she said. "That's the sound that saved the universe. In the end, there were no statues, no grand armies, no endless monuments. Just stories, songs, and the echoes of laughter that carried forever across the stars. The galaxy would never forget the world that refused to bow, the world that met the Galactic Empire and chuckled while they promised destruction. Because in that laughter was the oldest truth of all. When humanity laughs, it doesn't mean they're blind to danger. It means they've already decided. No empire, no fear, and no silence will ever rule them again. No fear, and no silence will ever rule them again. 100 years had passed since the day the sky smiled back. The war that began with a threat and ended in laughter had become legend, told in schools, sung in songs, and remembered in the hearts of billions. But laughter, like starlight, doesn't fade. It travels. It grows. A new age the galaxy was alive again. Where once there had been silence and control, there was noise. Glorious, unpredictable noise. Planets that had never known joy now hummed with music and color, and in the center of it all was Earth, the spark that had started it. It was no longer a backwater world. It had become the beating heart of the chorus of worlds, a living alliance built not on law or conquest, but on emotion and expression. Each planet brought something unique to the table. The crystalline beings of Velian added light symphonies that could be heard and seen at the same time. The giants of Cora 7, once the Empire's soldiers, turned their strength to building bridges that floated across cities like arcs of stone. And the delicate thinkers of Taraxis Prime became the first to teach laughter as science, mapping joy like constellations. They all credited humanity. But humans laughed at that too. "We just told a joke that got out of hand," said one Earth historian, smiling into the camera. The Hall of Echoes. The old warship Empyrean now drifted peacefully at the center of the chorus's territory. Renamed the Hall of Echoes, it was both museum and living network. Every culture in the galaxy sent recordings there, their songs, stories, and jokes. Visitors came from every world to hear the voices that had once saved them all. And always at the core of the ship played the ancient human transmission, the one that had broken the Empire's control, a wave of laughter woven with love, courage, and defiance. To some, it was history. To others, it was prayer, the legacy of Lena Reyes' doctor. Lena Reyes was long gone, but her name had become more than human. She was remembered not as a general or a scientist, but as the listener, the one who heard the power inside laughter and turned it into salvation. Her writings became part of the Echo Doctrine, a philosophy taught in schools across the stars. That emotion is not weakness, but connection, and that true strength comes not from control, but from the courage to feel. A statue of her stood inside the Hall of Echoes, not made of stone or metal, but of light and sound. When visitors approached, her holographic voice whispered, "Laugh often. It's harder to break what can laugh." The next generation. In a quiet classroom aboard a floating city above Earth, a group of young students, human and alien alike, sat in a circle. They weren't learning about weapons or strategy. They were learning about emotion resonance, a field of science that combined psychology, sound waves, and energy theory. Their teacher, an old alien with crystal skin, tapped the air. A hologram of Dr. Reyes appeared, laughing gently. "Once," the teacher said, "we thought emotion was noise, something to suppress. But humans showed us that noise can shape reality." A small hand rose in the air, a young alien child with big, curious eyes. "Teacher, what if the humans lose their laughter one day?" The teacher smiled. "Then it will be our turn to remind them." The shadow of the Empire. But not all stories end with peace. Far beyond the borders of the chorus, in the cold edges of space, something stirred, the remnants of the old empire. A few warlords had survived, hidden in the black zones where light never reached. They whispered of vengeance, of bringing back the old order where emotion was forbidden and silence ruled. One of them, an admiral named Sethra Kale, watched the growing joy of the galaxy and felt only disgust. "They've turned our empire into a circus," she snarled. "If emotion broke us once, then we'll fight it with its own fire." Her scientists worked in secret, building a new weapon designed not to destroy worlds but to silence them. A pulse generator that could erase emotional resonance, a machine to make the galaxy quiet again. The laughing signal returns back on Earth. Deep within the rebuilt Echo Research Center, a new team of scientists, descendants of Dr. Rhea's crew, detected something strange. A faint disruption in the emotional frequency network. Something cold and empty moving through space. The lead researcher, Maya Reyes, Lena's great-granddaughter, studied the data. "It's not natural," she said. "It's anti-emotion. A silence wave." She looked at the recording of her great-grandmother on the wall, the woman who had once laughed the Empire into defeat. Maya took a deep breath. "If they're bringing silence back, then we'll just have to make more noise." She sent out a message to the chorus of worlds. "All frequencies, all cultures, prepare the resonance arrays. It's time to laugh again." The second broadcast, when the silence wave arrived, it swept across the stars like a gray fog, draining color, sound, and emotion wherever it touched. But this time, the galaxy was ready. From the shining towers of Taraxis to the floating bridges of Korra, every world joined in one massive broadcast. Music, voices, joy, a second laughing signal, louder, brighter, stronger than the first. This time, it wasn't just human laughter. It was the laughter of thousands of species, different tones, languages, and rhythms, all blending into one impossible harmony. The wave hit the silence like a storm. Light exploded across the stars. The machine that sought to erase emotion disintegrated under the sheer force of unity. And for the first time in history, the entire galaxy laughed together. A universe reborn. The sound traveled for months, echoing through nebulae and asteroid fields, turning the coldest corners of space into living, singing light. Admiral Sethra Kale and her followers vanished into that brightness, not destroyed, but changed. Their minds flooded with the very thing they feared most: emotion, laughter, life. Back on Earth, Maya watched the readings level out. The galaxy was safe again, she whispered softly to herself. "You did it again, Grandma." The final message years later, Maya stood in the Hall of Echoes, looking up at her ancestor's holographic statue. The ship's lights shimmered around her, carrying sounds from 1,000 worlds. She pressed her hand against the console and recorded a message. "To whoever finds this, Know that laughter saved us once. Not because it's loud, but because it's real. If darkness comes again, don't hide. Don't fight in silence. Make noise. Sing. Laugh. That's how we remember who we are. The message was added to the archives and sent out into the cosmos. An eternal echo, traveling endlessly between stars, somewhere. Far away, a distant world received the signal. A child, not human, not alien as we know it, heard the strange sound for the first time, and then, quietly, beautifully, they laughed, and the universe, vast, dark, and endless, laughed with them. The stars had changed. Once, they were cold and distant, silent witnesses to endless wars and forgotten empires. But now they pulsed with light and laughter. Every flicker in the night sky carried a story, a sound, an echo of life. 100 generations had passed since Earth's first stand. Humanity was no longer a small voice lost among the stars. It had become a chorus, woven into the fabric of a living galaxy. But even now, no one had forgotten how it began, with a threat, a promise of destruction, and a laugh. The memory of the beginning, in a quiet corner of Earth's oldest city, the Museum of First Contact, stood by the sea. Waves lapped against the shore, whispering to the metal walls like an old friend. Inside, visitors from across the galaxy moved in silence. They looked at old screens, cracked helmets, fragments of the first alien ships. And at the center of it all stood one small exhibit, a simple microphone. Slightly rusted, its surface worn smooth by time. A plaque beneath it read, "The laugh heard across the stars." It was the very microphone from which a terrified comedian had cracked the first joke when the Empire threatened Earth. A moment of absurd bravery that had sparked everything. Tourists smiled. Some confused, some tearful. The guide, a soft-spoken AI, explained, "It began as a joke, but it became the sound that saved us all." The return of the wanderers, outside the museum, the air shimmered as ships descended from the clouds. They were chorus vessels, a mix of designs from hundreds of species, their hulls painted with bright colors and symbols of joy. Among them, the flagship Harmony's Wake carried a small delegation of the oldest members of the chorus. They had come to Earth for the Centennial of Laughter, the great celebration that marked 100 years since the final defeat of silence. At the heart of the event, standing beneath a dome of light, was Maya Reyes, great-granddaughter of Dr. Lena Reyes. Her hair was streaked with silver now, her voice calm and warm. She faced the sea of faces, human and alien, mechanical and organic, and spoke. Our ancestors fought not with weapons, but with joy. They taught us that sound, emotion, and connection are stronger than fear. We are here today because they refused to go quiet. The crowd responded with cheers, songs, and bursts of laughter that rolled across the city like thunder. From orbit, satellites captured the energy and broadcast it live to every world in the chorus. Live to every world in the chorus. Millions watched, billions listened, and once again, the galaxy laughed together. The whisper of the stars. Later that night, Maya stood alone on the balcony of the Hall of Echoes, now rebuilt above Earth as a floating citadel of sound and light. She watched the horizon, a dark line between ocean and sky, and felt a familiar ache in her chest. The stars above twinkled softly. She thought of her great-grandmother, Lena, of the people who had stood in those first days of terror and chosen to laugh instead of kneel. "We kept your promise," she whispered. "We made them remember." The wind carried the sound of distant celebration, fireworks, music, voices. But beyond it, she could almost hear something else, a faint echo of laughter traveling across the void. She smiled. The universe, it seemed, still remembered. A new beginning, far from Earth, on the edge of known space, a small exploration vessel named Jovian Dawn drifted near a red nebula. Its crew was mixed, human engineers, alien scientists, and one curious AI who loved bad jokes. They were searching for new worlds to join the chorus. The ship's captain, Aaron Cato, gazed out at the swirling red mist ahead. "Hard to believe," he said quietly, "that all this started because someone made a joke." His second officer, a tall alien with luminous skin, tilted her head. "A strange kind of weapon," she said, "but perhaps the most powerful one ever made." The AI chimed in through the intercom, voice cheerful. "Captain, I just uploaded 20 new human jokes to the database. Want to test them on first contact?" Kaido groaned. "Let's maybe not start another galactic revolution today?" The crew laughed, and the sound filled the ship. A small, ordinary moment that meant everything. The laughter echoed through the hull, into the nebula, and out into the endless dark. The song lives. On back on Earth, as the centennial came to an end, the chorus transmitted one final broadcast. A single frequency sent across the galaxy, the same one Dr. Lena Reyes had used generations ago. This time, it carried not just laughter, but voices. Millions of them. Human and alien, all woven together in harmony. They called it the Song of Humanity. It wasn't a song with words or melody. It was emotion itself, pure and alive. A reminder that every being who had ever felt, loved, cried, or laughed was part of the same story. The final echo centuries from now, when new civilizations rise and look up at the stars, they will still find that signal. A whisper across the universe, repeating again and again. They won't know the names of those who began it. They might not even know it came from Earth. But when they hear it, that strange, beautiful sound of countless voices laughing together, they will feel something deep inside their hearts. A spark, a warmth, a memory they never lived, but somehow remember. And somewhere, in that sound, the spirit of humanity will still be smiling.